The following is a Productions original series.
Hello and welcome to Walk and Roll Live. I'm Doug Vincent, joined by Addie Rich. Our podcast is dedicated to amplifying the voices of the disability community. I am a polio survivor, and Addie, she has CP.
Yeah.
How you like that?
I was not ready. I was going to be like a chronic smartass, and then you just stole it. Anyway.
Well, you can use it next week. All right. We're glad to be with you. Thank you for being with us. Right off the bat, I want to say thank you to Renee Rojo for being on last week and sharing the episode. Everybody must have loved it because it's doing really well. So thank you. And so what was your week like? Anything fun?
My week was good. My week was really good, actually. I finally got my promotion at work.
Good.
So
Officially,
exciting.
Right? You've been doing the work for a while, but
I've been doing the work for 2 years, but they finally recognized that work and changed my title and gave me a little bit more cash behind that title, which is awesome. It's not all about the money, but we do like the cushion. But I do appreciate the recognition and the fact that, they told me that now I could apply and grow to management. I didn't realize I couldn't in my other position. But
so there's a pathway.
Now I can. Yeah, exactly. Now I can. So
got another storyline to follow.
I know, right? But so that was really cool. And, led to a good week. And then I went to a networking event yesterday. There is a group here in Atlanta that a really cool lady named Ming Lee has started. It's called Girlies Making Friends in Atlanta. Really neat for just people who, it doesn't really it's people who want to make friends or get out and do things. They're very good and very neat at having different people in the group kind of sponsor events, and they do some like paid events and they do some unpaid events. So somebody will be like, we're going to karaoke. I'm going to this restaurant. I'll be there at 6. Anybody want to come? Or like yesterday, it was a more paid networking event. So it was a brunch and it was kind of Easter themed and did that kind of stuff. But I took my wheels because I decided that since I've kind of gone on this advocacy journey and I'm encouraging people to go as they are and, do the things that make them most comfortable and help them to exist in their most full life.
This was intentional.
This was intentional.
And that's one of those things that you hear all the time from, speakers, motivational speakers, and, the people that like life coaches, like I know you dabble in that a little bit too, is to get outside your comfort zone. So, you have a chair, and I know that you don't use it a lot yet, and you're transitioning, and you still want to use as much of your mobility as you still have. I know all of those things, but so this time you wanted to kind of push yourself a little bit, would you say?
Yeah, I wanted to push myself and not be afraid. Honestly, too, so when you watch me walk and things like carrying a plate and a drink and going to do things and whatever, that can be very challenging. And I knew here I am in this networking circumstance. I really want to be able to meet people. I want to not be uncomfortable with please don't trip. Please, Jesus, do not throw this plate of food. It seemed the most logical choice to choose something that set me up for the most success. I know how to put a plate on my lap and roll away and do what I needed to do. But one of the coolest things about this event is if one person asks to help, 17 people asked to help. Can I help you with your plate? Can I carry your drink? But it literally was like a quick question and moving on. And, one of the reasons I'm passionate about this group is one of the things I really felt was like a universal calling for me in this and which I've learned kind of through this podcast, is not being afraid to advocate for something you need. So they did an event in winter that wasn't accessible. They rented a charter bus to go to a place, but the charter bus wasn't accessible, so I really couldn't go. And after that, I reached out to Ming, and she was very open, and I said, hey, can I help with some accessibility stuff? Can I volunteer to vet a place or help you, get a charter bus that is accessible or whatever? And she was super open to it and really receptive. And it's been a great place to kind of grow, but the imposter syndrome is falling away, and I don't feel like a fake disabled person. As funny as that sounds, I feel like I've always kind of straddled a line, right? Because I wanted to be seen as competent and all the things that are misjudged when people just look at your container. And now at this age, I'm learning you can be all the things. And so yesterday was a perfect example of you can be all the things. So that was me. How about you?
Well, before we talked on the show, you had mentioned a couple other things. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about some of the contacts, or don't want to?
Oh, I don't want to give it away yet.
Okay,
but
all right.
Things are in the works. Things are in the works. Whereas, the universe makes no mistakes, and I can't tell you what made it happen that the imposter syndrome fell away, but it has finally fallen away from me. Maybe embracing your whole self.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be things in the future that I really look forward
to. Well, I'll look forward to those too. Yeah, and everybody else.
Exactly.
Good. More story to come. I like it. Well, I went to another adaptive sports event this past weekend, and part of the reason was because it's bocce ball. Because there's bocce ball and there's boccia ball. I'm still doing a little investigating on this yet, because I think one is for the disabled community, was specifically designed for the disabled community, for people with CP, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
So that's part of the event's history. But now they're opening it up to everybody, So, and it was awesome. And one of the reasons I picked it is because when I go to these adaptive sports events, there's a lot of the stuff that I've done a little bit in the past, and I'm kind of past. Part of it's my age, and part of it's what the walking on the crutches and pushing a wheelchair for all these decades has done to my shoulders and whatnot. So this is going to be low impact and something I can get out there, have the social component, the competitive component, just the recreational component, all those things,
That's
to
fun.
get together. So, so this was a tournament, so I just got to watch, but I met a lot of people. There wasn't as many people there that I thought I would know. So I got to meet a lot of new people and make connections with the bocce ball community. And, so I met a few of the judges that travel the world doing this. And all of that. So we're going to learn more about bocce ball coming up. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
And it was fun. And I'm going to get to play. There's events around in Burbank. I met the gentleman that's I don't know if he's like the top guy, but he definitely is up there in the Burbank Recreation Department. And Burbank, if you don't know, is doing a phenomenal job in the disabled community. They open their gym every weekend at a park. I don't want to give you the wrong name because I think it's one name and I keep saying another one. But anyway, they do an adaptive sporting event once a year. In that same park, they put in an adaptive wheelchair accessible, all disability accessible playground for the kids in that park.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I talked to him a little bit yesterday about maybe putting in a accessible softball field. So he's like, he didn't out and out just say no. So that was good. Let's go back to the, the committees and all that and see if that's
really important.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things they do when they open up everything on Sundays is bocce ball. So I'm going to head over and give it a shot, and I'll let you know how I do.
Yes, I'd like to hear.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So that's it for that little update on what's going on with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share and rate. I think it's a thing now too. I'm an old guy, so I don't know all of the current terms, but I'm doing my best. Coming up today, it's an interview with Dan Fernandez. He was one of those poor, unfortunate souls that I was stalking. I met him in a waiting room at the United Access folks when they were doing a service on my van, and he was in there getting a service on his van too. We got to chatting, and pretty soon I had his contact information, and I invited him on the show.
Stop smiling till he said hello.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you looking at me so
weird? I'm not gonna leave you alone. I will not break it's like a staring contest. I will not break it first.
Exactly. So that is our interview today. So we'll do that right after we hear from our good friends at Ugyar Professional Training.
At Ugyar Professional Training, we know that your greatest asset is your team. Investing in their development, knowledge, and happiness is essential for your business's success and growth. To achieve new heights, it's important to hire intelligent, talented individuals and empower them to excel in their areas of strength and passion. UGYAR is committed to transforming your employees into happier, more productive, and fulfilled individuals. When your team thrives, your business prospers. Wise leaders understand that providing team members with opportunities to shine in their strengths unlocks untapped potential. Elevate your team with UGYAR professional training and witness the growth of your business.
Today, new day, new gifts, let's sway.
From the UGYAR Professional Training Studios, you're listening to Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories.
New day, new gifts, let's sway. We've told a lot of stories, there's been so many glories.
Welcome back to Walk and Roll Live. I am Doug. Addie is here, and we have our guest this week. We were just talking before we came on that nobody's safe for me anymore. I find guests wherever I can, and Dan and I had a nice conversation in the waiting room at United Access. I think we were getting our vans serviced. So I pounced and
Your
said,
van
hey,
buddies.
I'm doing a podcast. Would you like to come on and tell your story? And I'm just finding, I don't judge. I ask everybody, and I'm just so thrilled to hear the incredible stories that come, when I do that. And I'm sure Dan will be no different. Well, first of all, why don't you help us get to know you just a little bit, or just like kind of where you're from now. What's the nature of your disability? And that's I guess mostly it, and then we'll jump off from there.
Sure. My name is Dan Fernandez, originally from San Bernardino, born and raised. I went to high school in San Bernardino. I got married when I was 19. Still married to Donna. We've been married 44 years now. And
congratulations.
Quite a feat.
Yes.
And she gets all the credit, believe me. Especially since the accident 8 years ago. Moved to Yucaipa in 1989, so basically we're Yucaipians at this point, and live with my oldest daughter and my son-in-law, who help with my care, and 2 grandkids. My son lives in the casita behind us. All my children are adult age, and my son is 34 and in a band, etc. So all my kids are artists in one way or another. And I got an accident in April 21st of 2018. I got up early to go on a fishing trip. Prior to my accident, my passion and my absolute love was saltwater fishing. So I thought I'd get up early and go get some early spring yellowtail so I could have some sashimi. And I left the house at 2:30 in the morning, trying to get to San Diego by about 4:30. And as I got to the 60 freeway in Moreno Valley, which was fairly open that morning, of course, at that early hour, I was rear-ended at a guy driving a Maserati at 131 miles an hour.
Oh my God!
He clipped me. Yeah, he clipped me, and my back seat was down because my ice chest was in the back of my Jeep Cherokee. And when that happened, the back seat pushed into my seat, which immediately broke my back, severed my spinal cord, fractured my pelvis and my cervical collar. And I was in the hospital for 3 months overall, back and forth between Kaiser and Casa Colina. I was in Fontana Kaiser. I was also in Ontario Kaiser. I was in Casa Colina twice. The first time I was in their ICU unit because after I got transferred from Kaiser Fontana, I had several issues that caused me to code. And I ended up in their ICU unit for almost 2 weeks before getting transferred back to Kaiser and then ultimately transferred back to Casa Colina. So
quite a journey.
Yeah, back and forth. And the only time I got to see fresh air was usually in the evening when I was getting transferred.
Right. You're like, can we transfer somewhere? I need to go outside.
I know, exactly.
But I would like to go outside, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a dorsal rhizotomy in 1991 when I was in sixth grade, and if people are having it now, which is amazing because I'm seeing more and more people like have it now, but they do it like almost as a nick surgery. They don't like fully do what they did to us. I was the female and there was a male version of me, and they actually like took her back out and did all that stuff. So it was a lot more complicated, right? Like they didn't know
Wow.
how to do it microscopically. But I do, one of my earliest memories of like getting back together was them rolling me outside and like washing my hair outside. And it was like one of
Yeah.
the best days of my life because I was like, I'm outside. Who cares
know.
if my hair
After
is a
being-
rat's nest? Because
After being cooped up, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Really.
Air feels so different when you haven't felt it for a long
Oh, just the fresh air in your lungs.
Yeah, exactly.
Some vitamin D and K, right?
Exactly.
So you got a long career in retail leadership. How did you get started with that?
Yeah, well, my parents had a grocery store in San Bernardino, and we used to source our goods from Smart and Final as our primary resource. And when I used to go into the store, first of all, they were open Monday through Friday, 7 to 3:30, and they were only open to businesses. And so,
Oh yeah, I do remember
yeah,
those days.
yeah. So I started in 1981, and I was very happy to get a job at Smart and Final, having wanted to work there because I knew all the guys. It felt like a second home, so to speak. And so when I got my job there, I got a full-time job, and I was 18 years old, and to make the money I was making, at that time as an 18-year-old full-time with benefits and a pension, I absolutely felt honored and privileged to get that job. And so I worked at Smart and Final in the stores in several capacities, all the way to store manager. I managed 3 different stores for Smart and Final before moving on to human resources, and worked in human resources for a few years, both as benefits manager. Thankless job, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. And that transitioned into manager of associate relations for both corporate and stores. And that ended up turning into a district manager position, which is really what my goal was to become a district manager. I managed 4 different districts for the company in a little bit over 4 years. The last district I ran was in San Diego, which was the #1 district in the company. And I was very privileged, but I was making the long drive from Yucaipa down to San Diego almost every day. And so that ended up turning into a promotion to director of store operations. And I served in that position for a couple of years before I really started seeing the inside of the companies. It was kind of like being married to someone for 20 years and then all of a sudden getting to see the inside of what made it tick. And at that point, I wasn't really thrilled about what I was seeing anymore with the company at that time. And that was in 2001 when I decided to make a move and moved over to Big Lots, and worked for Big Lots for a little bit more than 10 years. And I was enjoying my career at Big Lots, and I could see the writing on the wall there. And obviously, as we all know, Big Lots is no more, unfortunately. And
It's here. It is totally in the South.
No, they're gone.
Oh, they're gone now? Wow, I haven't gotten out of the house apparently.
Yeah.
What was their name before, Dan?
Big Lots was Pick and Save.
I was like, it was Pick and Save, my favorite freaking store when I was little.
Yeah.
And I've heard they're thinking about coming back.
Well, somebody bought the name Pick and Save. And it was actually the old CEO of 99 Cent Store who bought that name. And he's opened up a couple of stores at this point under the Pick and Save name in the Inland Empire area.
I see
So
you still have your finger on the pulse of the business.
yeah, I still know a lot of people,
Yeah.
and we talk, and you read different journals, but anyway, I saw the writing on the wall, so
Yeah.
I put my resume out there, and I got a job with a 99-cent store, and that company, actually, I was there for a little bit less than 7 years before the accident, and I got to tell you, I wish I would have started there when they started, because they started in 1982. I started my career in 81, and I just absolutely love that company. Ultimately, I felt like I was appreciated more than I had been appreciated in other companies. I felt like I was really making a genuine contribution to the organization. People at 99-cent store is not around anymore, and people ask me, what happened, and I say, well, after they laid me off after my accident, they obviously couldn't operate anymore because I wasn't there.
Right, exactly. There you go. You were the missing word.
Well,
Exactly. I was the key. So
that brings me, Dan, that brings me to a question, if you don't mind. I was thinking what kind of conversation you have with your employer for the sake of, this show where we deal with the topics of disability. Was there ever a conversation about, you continuing after? Because I imagine your job was, more, of a, not intellectual, but it was your mind. It wasn't, you weren't doing any heavy lifting, right, in that capacity.
What had happened, Doug, was after the accident, while I was in my position before the accident, I was a regional director. Mm-hmm. I was responsible for 70 stores in the basically Inland Empire and parts of Orange County and parts of LA County, and all the way from Indio to Long Beach. I had eight district managers reporting to me. Absolutely loved my job. I was out in the field most of my time. I would say 80% of my time I was in the field, outside of being in my office for reporting purposes or corporate office or meetings outside of being in the field. But after the accident, I was off work for 9 months. Mm-hmm. And so obviously at that point, I couldn't return to my previous position. And the reasons I say obviously is because of bowel and urine, catheterization and that type of thing. Yeah. And I wasn't prepared to drive either. And so I would have had to have a driver take me store to store, et cetera. And we weren't in a position at that point to do so. Fortunately, while I was off, 99, again, they appreciated me to the point where the president of the company was calling my wife, asking her if there was anything that I needed. They left me on payroll. I never had to sign up for disability while I was off for 9 months. I was getting my regular paychecks, and they just treated me really, really well.
That is an organization that truly is treating you like you matter.
Yeah. And again, even before then, I felt like I was very much appreciated. Yeah. I was saving the company a lot of money with some of the projects that I was in charge of prior to going back out to the field. I was a district manager to begin with, and then I went into the corporate office in a couple of different capacities. And then I ultimately, like I mentioned, a regional director. But after the accident, I was offered a position to take my old position at corporate back and be able to do that from home. And so I was given a portion of my team, not the entire team that I had before. And they gave me an opportunity to just work from home and, conference calls and reporting from home, et cetera. And I did that for, about 9 months again. And then the company was, at that point, they were going through a lot of management changes. They had changed the president of the company, the guy that was talking to my wife all the time. They had changed my boss. And so the company was starting to hit a very fast downward trend.
Yeah.
And they brought on another company to determine, where could layoffs happen, et cetera. And so that's what happened. I got laid off through reduction in workforce.
Boo.
So
Little did
that
they
caring
know.
attitude went away.
Yeah, the president, your boss, and the president left, and it left with them. Unfortunately, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Little did they know that COVID was going to hit and everybody was going to work from home, and they would look like jackpots because,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I worked from home on and off. I mean, I did take an office position for a while, but since 2009, when I moved to Toronto and I worked for an American company while living there, and people would always say, "No, but what do you really do?" Because I'd say, "Well, I work from home and I work in, marketing, or I work in accounting, or whatever I was doing at the time." And people were like, "No, no, really, like, what do you do?" I was like, "That's a real job." Then COVID hit, and suddenly everybody else had a very similar job, and suddenly it was a job,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. It was unfortunate. I was hurt. I cried when I got laid off.
I would have cried too.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I felt like I was still, even though I was working from home, and I didn't have quite the same structured organization that I had before. I still felt like we were making positive changes. One of my rules of thumb when I was in the director position at the corporate office, because office positions aren't where the money is made. It's where money is spent usually. And I had a rule of thumb with my team. I said, if you're making $50,000 a year, you need to find and save the company $500,000 a year. So if I was making, let's say, 80,000, I needed to save the company 800,000. And all in all, one year my team saved the company over $15 million. My organization, between, one of the big things I was responsible for was compliance, and that means hazardous waste compliance and trash pickup and things of that nature. And so we went after some, what I would call low-hanging fruit, but it was really expensive low-hanging fruit for the organization from fines that they had years before. And so year over year, that one year, we saved the company over $15 million in both hazardous waste and weights and measure complaints. So weights and measure fines. We had a significant lawsuit in weights and measures that I was able to rectify, and that one fine saved the company over $3 million.
Right, but you're treating it like it's partly your company and like you care about it and things, and that shows when you put the right people in the right seats.
Yep.
And you value them as people and you value their intelligence and all the things you hired them for. It is worth it.
Yeah,
I just because you get around differently doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was fortunate that I had some very loyal, very smart people that worked for me. I mean, some people that were much smarter than me working for me. These kids that were coming out of college with degrees in advanced mathematics, and I was able to just, push their buttons and get them to run reports for me that, back in the old days would have taken months to get, and they were able to have them on my desk within sometimes a half day.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You knew how to assemble your team.
I was lucky that my boss was supportive enough to allow me to hire and train as I saw fit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like from your whole story, it sounds like you lived as an older man even when you were younger. I don't mean that in a weird way, but like you got married really early. You got a big job really early. So it's
Yeah,
like kind of fascinating that you started a little bit more aged than normal 18-year-olds or like, you
yeah.
know. So it's kind of, I find it sort of fascinating that it like accelerated to start you and then kind of slowed down via an accident, right? But you still learned to savor things because it sounds like even as a person with no difference who just enjoyed stuff, you knew how to enjoy people and things and whatever. How do you think that's helped you? I mean, I would,
Oh,
I
absolutely.
would like
You
your
know,
advice.
the funny thing is, when you look back at my career, I wanted to be a district manager. That was my goal when I was younger.
Hmm.
And I saw myself in that role by the time I was 35 as a dream. And I was able to hit that and beat that by a few years. But what the main reason for that is because of all things, they asked me to work in human resources.
Yeah,
And I was not a fan of that.
right.
I could not see the benefit of doing that. The first year they offered it to me, it came with a $17,000 pay cut,
Yeah.
along with having to drive to LA every day and
Yeah, you're like, no.
having a
Yeah.
wardrobe change, wearing
At
a
any point, did they take out your nails with the pliers, or geez,
exactly
keeps getting
sure,
worse and worse?
but the first year they offered it to me, I said no. And so the second year they offered it to me, they said, this is the route to become a district manager. If
Mm.
you want to become a district manager, you're going to work in human resources. So, I swallowed that big horse pill and I did it. And it was really the reason I was able to accelerate so quickly as a district manager, to the director of store operations in just 4 years.
So it's the
And
major league manager going to Poughkeepsie.
yeah,
Anyway, he didn't
For
want to be
sure.
there, but it
yeah,
was part of that path. Yeah.
yeah, I was a fish out of water.
Yeah.
And I just learned so much, so much working in that role that I was able to leverage that. And so it helped me throughout my career up until, the layoff. And, after the layoff, I went on state disability for a year,
Hmm.
exhausted that. And then I decided to, we looked at the finances. I had gotten a settlement from the accident, and we looked at the finances and we were able to pay the house off and have enough money not to worry about things. And so I decided to go ahead and retire early.
Yeah. Well, you kind of earned it because you did everything so fast. But so I have a question going back because I'm always like nature versus nurture kind of is fascinating to me. So
Okay.
you obviously didn't want to take that pill, but you got wise and you were like, if I do this, do you feel like you were always kind of like that as a kid or like was it modeled for you? Like how did you figure that out? Was that born in you to have the wider view or did you learn that from your parents and being in the grocery business? Like where do you feel like that kind of came from? Because
I,
generations are not like that.
I would say that it came from my parents. The grocery store that we had in San Bernardino, we were open 6 days a week. We opened at 8 o'clock in the morning. I had to work at the store every single day we were open. Uh,
Yeah.
some of the kids were out there playing baseball at 12 years old, just like me. But at a certain time, I had to stop and say, guys, I got to go. I had to go work in the store. I had my responsibilities on a daily basis that I had to go and fill up the beer and soda case and separate the deposit bottles and clean the bandsaw. We had a fresh meat department. My dad was a meat cutter, butcher, and he would get a side of beef once a week. And so my job was to clean the bandsaw and all the different tools that we used for cutting meat. But yeah, I had to learn that from a very early age.
Yeah.
And then once I got to Smart and Final, the store manager, his name was Dan also. Um, he was like an older brother to me. I had known him since I was a kid. but he kind of really took me under his wing, and brought me along at that point. And I just felt very fortunate that I fell in with the right crowd, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this being Walk and Roll Live, we want to kind of delve into your disability experience a little bit more too. So how was your care? Were you and not only your care to get healed from your injuries, but also to prepare you for this new life? I hear so many different versions of this.
Sure.
From just barely anything to some of the best stuff that is out there. So how was your experience?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that, I was bouncing back and forth between Kaiser and Casa Colina.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, well, I won't say obviously, but, during the accident, what had happened was I got spun around. And as I mentioned, I broke my back and severed my spinal
Mm-hmm.
cord. I didn't know that my legs weren't working, other than the fact that I opened up the car next to me that hit me was on fire. I knew that I had 21 gallons of gas in my tank, and I did not want to burn, you know, and so I opened up my car door. The interior light went on. I tried to get out. My legs weren't working for some reason. I looked down at my left foot. My my slip-on van, was not on my left foot anymore. And I was like, what is going on? Are my legs broken? What happened?
Yeah.
And so I waved on some cars that were coming the other direction. I waved them over like, hey guys, can somebody come and help me? So a couple of guys actually got out of their cars, and one guy was EMT, and he had me cross my arms, and they pulled me out of the vehicle and laid me on the pavement. And as I laid on the pavement waiting for paramedics to arrive, I could feel my breathing just getting really shallow. And I thought either I'm in shock or there's something else physically wrong with me. And so what ended up happening was, during the accident, both lungs were punctured, and both lungs were filling up with blood.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I was only 2 miles away from a trauma center, which was Moreno Valley. Donna, what's the name of that hospital I was in? Riverside Health Systems.
Okay.
And so,
what are the chances, though, that an EMT is one that pulls over and that you're 2 miles away? You could have been anywhere, and nobody could have been around. And this
I know, angels, right?
I love that.
Yeah, and so I was there, Doug, for a couple of weeks before Kaiser wanted me over there, because obviously I was a Kaiser patient, and so they wanted to get me. They wanted to get me to their own facility. So when
were there conversations at that point as far as what was going to happen long term, as far as making? I mean, I'm sure that the primary thing was to get you, get those injuries taken care of,
get you alive to the hospital.
Yeah, get you alive first. Yeah, but was there conversations about rehabilitation at that point?
There was conversation that eventually I would need to get into a rehab center, and start working on my arms so that I could work on transferring, etc. And so what had happened was they'd given my wife this Xerox piece of paper that looked like it had been Xeroxed 100 times before. It was very faded. And it had these list of skilled nursing facilities in the Inland Empire. And so fortunately, my family was around, and they took charge to go visit these locations. One of my oldest sisters is a registered nurse, so she was kind of directing everybody. Katie, you go here. April, you go here. Stephanie, you go here.
Yeah.
And so they were all going to different places and coming back and reporting to my wife where I should be. In the meantime, my wife was talking to nurses, and nurses were saying, get him to Casa Colina. Get him to Casa Colina. whatever it takes, get him to Casa Colina. And so I was fortunate enough to be accepted, and Casa Colina had a bed for me. And so that's where I went. But after the second night, like I mentioned, I coded I had sepsis and all kinds of other stuff. And I was in their ICU. And at the time, I think Casa Colina has a 6-bed ICU, 3-bed. My wife just corrected me. 3-bed ICU.
She's like, you weren't even awake. I'll tell you how many.
Yeah. And there was nobody else in the ICU except me. I was the only patient. So I had one-on-one care.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And every day, the doctor would put his thumb up to my wife. He's getting better. He's getting better. But, I had almost died on the pavement. I had almost died, when I coded. Mm-hmm. And then, I was getting stronger after I had gotten out of the ICU, obviously. And then they moved me back to Kaiser just to kind of stabilize me, so to speak. Yeah. And then once I stabilized, then they sent me back to Casa Colina. And that's really where I started the therapy part of it. That's where I started getting a shower every other day. Finally, a shower. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like
shower in a shower chair.
Again.
Shower in a shower chair, Yeah. They were lifting me with a Hoyer, putting me in a chair, rolling me into the shower. I was on the bowel program, learning all these new and different ways of life that there's not a manual. Mm-hmm. There's not a manual that says to my wife, especially, here's what to expect when your husband, is a paraplegic and, he's 300 pounds and you're not, and you need to, start learning all this stuff to care for him. And so, unfortunately, while I started my physical therapy, I tore both rotator cuffs to the point that it was excruciating pain.
How did you do that?
Yeah, I was going to say, how did you
recover? Through therapy, they were trying to get me to lift my body weight and pushing down on these wooden, I don't know, it was a tool that they would, you had to grab onto the wooden dowel, so to speak, and push down in order to try and get your butt off of the mat. Yeah. And I was trying so hard that I tore my rotator cuffs, because I mentioned I'm a big guy, I'm a big guy, and, I was trying to push down and tore them both. And they didn't know that I tore them. I just told them my shoulders hurt. What's going on? They finally sent me into an orthopedic who said, stop doing this. You've tore both rotator cuffs,
which is insane.
And so,
is this an exercise you've been doing for a while?
Oh yeah, it was.
It wasn't just one episode. It was
it was a regular part of my therapy.
Gotcha.
And even after I tore them, they were like, "Come on, Dan, you got to learn you got to build up your arms."
You're like, dude,
And they had a machine called a rickshaw machine. Okay. And you can imagine what a rickshaw looks like. And so I would have to push down, and they just kept on wanting me to accelerate the weight I was pushing down, go from 50 pounds to 60 to 80 to 120, etc. And I was doing it, but it hurt so bad. Yeah. And the doctor finally said, and I was using all kinds of creams to put on my we had a friend that works in the cannabis industry, and he was getting me these different creams that would really, more than anything, they would help me sleep.
Yeah.
And because I just couldn't, turn or anything.
Well, no kidding.
Yeah. And so it was awful. It was horrible. And so I think I was telling you, Doug, that day at United, that's why I'm in an electric wheelchair, is because the orthopedic said, if we operate on your rotator cuffs, there's probably a 90% chance if you start transferring yourself, there's probably a 90% chance that you're going to tear them again.
Yeah.
And that also includes the possibility of getting blood clots again.
Right.
And so me and my wife made the decision that I wasn't going to get that surgery and that I would just be in an electric wheelchair for the rest of my days.
Yeah.
So otherwise and this is painful for me to think about, but you could have been in a manual chair if you hadn't have done that to your shoulders.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I saw Andrew from Triumph, and he had I don't know what the wheels are called, but they're a something assist where motion assist, I think is what they're called.
The big
and he
hose,
was
right. Yeah.
and he's a quad, and so he's able to even get into his own vehicle and drive, and so
I know a few guys like that. Yeah.
I bought a vehicle. I don't know if I told you, Doug, but I bought a vehicle from United, and I had it all set up for myself to start driving again. And I went through the class with a guy by the name of Frank down in Corona, and he certified me to go ahead. It'd be okay to start driving again. And so I got behind the wheel, and I was scared.
Yeah.
I mean, I had driven from Yucaipa to Los Angeles since 1993.
Yeah.
And up until my accident, I was a driver doing 60,000 miles a year.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was scared to drive. So I just decided.
And that was the first time you got behind the wheel since your accident.
Yeah. But I tried it several times in my neighborhood. I tried and I tried and I tried. And I was just like, no, I'm not going to do this. I am not going to drive. Why do I need
Welcome
to
my club.
First of all, I have a wife that is retired too. I bought a beautiful Ford Transit van with a great lift on it. And so if I need to go somewhere, she could take me.
Yeah.
And so I decided to sell the other vehicle after it sat in my driveway for a year and a half collecting dust and, dropping in value. I took a huge loss on it, but I got rid of it and opened up a spot in my driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all have to go through that mourning process, right? Like I never drove. I've taken so many driving lessons. I've taken probably more than 40 hours of driving lessons from, and I'm 46 now, but I kind of got to this point a few years ago where I was like, I don't feel safe. I worry for other people more than for myself. I want to be fair to those people because someone with cerebral palsy has depth perception, and like if you scare me or I get spooked or whatever, I tend to be like gas instead of brake,
Oh yeah.
I don't want to take not good. I didn't want to take the chance of like hurting other people, but it was a whole mourning process of like I will be reliant on public transportation or someone else or a friend for the rest of my life.
Well, I had a minor rear end accident on the freeway where I rear-ended a car, and I drove away from it. It was, like I say, it was very minor, but that got in my head it probably took me 2 years, in stop and go traffic, not to start getting anxious over that kind of minor. So, to go through what you went through.
Doug, the other thing I wanted to mention was, before we're done is 2 years later, actually almost 2 years from the accident, I was on a blood thinner, warfarin, and because I had blood clots in my left leg, and that's where I got most of the impact of the accident. But I ended up getting a brain bleed, and I was fading away in my bed, and my wife was like, "Why are you not taking your pills? Why are you not responding to me?" And finally, because I was going so slow in front of her, she didn't realize that there was something really, really wrong with me until my son came in and said 911, and they came and got me, and I had an emergency surgery within 3 hours to drain the blood in my brain. However, after the operation at Loma Linda, I was having severe headaches, and prior to that, I was having this pain. I called it. I don't even remember what I called it. God, it's been so long. Anyway, I was having this pain in my butt and my thighs,
Yeah.
like hot water, and
Yeah.
a thousand bees stinging, every square inch of my butt and
So like a
thighs.
weird sensation, pain, like
Yeah,
yeah.
and they couldn't figure out what it was. Was it a form of neuropathy or what was going on? And so it was. It was just horrible. And they couldn't. They were trying different medicines to get rid of it. Well, fast forward to the brain bleed, and I was having these headaches, and they started giving me Percocet.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I realized that Percocet was taking away my headaches, but B, the pain in my butt and thighs.
Hmm.
It was hitting the right receptors in my brain.
Right.
And so they put me on Percocet for I was on it from January of 20 up until 8 months ago.
Okay.
And my body finally started getting used to the Percocet to where it wasn't effective anymore. So then I went on to methadone,
Hmm.
and I was on methadone for 8 months until my body started, getting used to
Getting used
that,
to it.
and not giving me the relief that I needed. And so my doctor told me that would happen. And so he put me back on Percocet 2 months ago. And I'm not getting the relief that I used to get. I'm getting some relief, but not. So we're going to probably have to either go back to methadone or we're going to have to try something else. But I've tried morphine, I've tried fentanyl, I've tried so many different things. But I just kind of wanted to share with folks that
Yeah.
the Percocet actually hits the right receptors anyway for me. For
Yeah. Yeah.
so
And that's the thing, I mean, even myself in the pain that I have, I rotate medications.
yeah.
Luckily I'm able to go between like ibuprofen and Aleve and, and
Mm-hmm.
Tylenol and all those things. But Aleve is the one that for whatever reason works best for me, But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so you have to try different things. Have you tried anything holistic like acupuncture or?
Well, I've gone through acupuncture and
Yeah.
really nothing. The one thing that does work 100% is cannabis. And the challenge with cannabis is um, I can't smoke inside the house. It's just
Hmm.
a rule that we have. So then you ask yourself, well, how about gummies? Yeah, I
Yeah.
can take gummies, but because I'm such a big guy, it takes about three of those things to
Pulling
give
out. Yeah.
give me the relief that I need, and
Yeah.
they're pricey.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're not cheap, and so if I have to take three of those, and then she gets me ready, and then I go outside and I smoke a doobie, and the grandkids just love it when I'm high because I give them all kinds of material, that they videotape
Yeah, they
me, and
laugh at.
oh yeah,
Right, they're
it's
like, and
just
then our grandpa, this is what happens when nerve
yeah,
pain hits.
exactly. So, and the other thing is my doctors don't allow me to be on cannabis and a controlled substance at the same time.
Mm,
Which makes sense. They're like,
yeah,
choose your
yeah.
poison. Which one do you want? Because we can't control half of this. Yeah.
Right, right. So at this point, I'm choosing the prescribed medication rather than the cannabis. But
Yeah.
who knows? Someday I might have to be, a stoner.
Yeah. Well, gosh, hopefully you get it all sorted out and get some relief.
Yeah.
And before we let you go, I have a few questions I want to ask. I know your passion was fishing before your injury. Are you able to get out there at all now?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
We found a couple of different boats that allow me to roll on.
Mhm.
And so the one boat that I just absolutely love for anybody that's listening is a boat out of H&M Landing called the Premier. It's a half day boat. And so you're only on the boat for, 6 hours,
Yeah.
but I chartered it and I've chartered it a couple times where I charter it for 10 hours instead of a half day. And I'm able to bring my friends and family or whoever, and we go out and we do what we want. We went out a few years ago, and the captain ended up taking us out 40 somewhat miles, and we got into the Dorado, Mahi Mahi, and everybody on the boat limited out. And it's funny, these Mahi Mahi, they're strong fish even when you're able-bodied. Yeah. But I caught one that was, I don't know, 12, 15 pounds, and I couldn't finish the fight. I had to hand the rod over to one of the deckhands that was assigned to me for the day, a young kid by the name of David, 15 years old, and he was my compadre for the day.
That's so fun.
And he ended up bringing the fish in for me, and my arms just couldn't handle it. And this is a guy that, I had caught a 231-pound bluefin tuna before.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, we'd fly to Puerto Vallarta once a year, me and my buddies, and we would go hunting down these 200, 300-pound yellowfin tuna. And that's the kind of fishing I absolutely love to do was, big fish, big sport fish fishing.
But back in those days, you were probably fishing all the time, right?
Oh, I was probably on the water, I would say 25 to 30 days a year.
Yeah. So you're out there training, basically.
Oh, yeah.
So when you got that fish, you probably hadn't fished in how long?
Oh, gosh. That one, I hadn't fished in 5 years.
Yeah.
So but how cool that you rediscovered your love and found a way to do it, right? That's so cool. And that the community around you is like, I got your back.
One of the best days of your life.
We're going to get these fish.
It was funny. The first time I got on a boat after the accident, all my fishing buddies that, I was fishing with before the accident, they went with me, and these guys were in tears.
That's awesome.
Shoot, I would have been in. I'm nearly in tears. I don't even know.
My buddies, and I got this applause that was so unexpected from my friends and family being on a deck, having not been on a deck for 4 years or whatever it was, and it was just so moving to be on a fishing boat again. Yeah,
that's awesome. Now, was the boat accessible, or did they, just through brute strength get you on, or how
No, this particular boat is actually deck high. The deck is exactly level with the dock. And so
I'm taking notes here.
I didn't even need a ramp. The one thing we did need to do was all my passengers needed, when we got back in, because it was high tide, everybody needed to get on the one side of the boat in order to bring the weight of the level of the boat down, so I didn't have to run up to the van to get my ramp.
Yeah.
So it was everybody's weight was enough to go, drop it down like 3 inches, so I didn't have this big bump to go down when we got back in.
I have to look up the premiere.
Look it up. Captain's name is Brandon, and his crew is just absolutely fantastic.
Doug, we should have him on about fishing trips for
that'd be awesome. Heck yeah. And then one last, are you able to get out and travel with the family? I know that was something you were passionate about before.
Yeah. 2 years ago, my wife and I went on our first vacation since the accident, and we went with a couple of friends, long time friends, and we took our Ford Transit van up to Lake Tahoe.
Oh, fun.
And I was on the phone for about 9 hours calling different hotels, trying to find a hotel that had a bed that was on a bed frame instead of on a platform.
So you could use your Hoyer.
So we need to introduce you to Corey Lee and his mom. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
because I finally found the Margaritaville has a few beds still that have not been transitioned to the platforms.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so we went 2 years ago, and then this last year, they actually put us in a different room. And the first thing my wife looked was the platform and said, "Oh, no, 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 this isn't going to work."
Yeah.
And so we went back to the room that we were in the year before, and they hadn't transitioned it. So I talked to the manager, and his name is Max. And I said, "Max, I said, leave it alone. I'll be back
Yeah.
next year,
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Don't
you have
touch
my
it.
forever business if you leave this bed like this. Yeah.
Exactly. So, we were fortunate. 2 years ago, we stayed for 6 days. This last year, we stayed for 9 days. And
Amazing.
yeah, we just had a blast both years, just getting away. And, even though my wife is my primary caregiver, even allowing her to get away and do something different than her normal routine,
For sure.
we both love Lake Tahoe, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And then to be able to hang out with friends too, that could share the driving responsibilities with her.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I appreciate it so much. And, my intuition was right. That guy's going to be a good guest.
Job, Dad. Good job.
I told you I could talk.
Yeah.
I see the hooks coming, and that's fine.
A couple of things too. And this is what I love about a story like yours is because of other people that are listening that may be, closer to their injury than life afterwards. And you let them know, as devastating as that was, that, and there's some rocky bumps along the way. I mean, I can hear it in your voice, you're living life, you're a positive guy.
Yeah, I try to be. And, they told us that things would get tougher before they got easier. And they were right, just prayer, lots of prayer, and just stay with the programs that your medical team is, pushing you through, and, just keep a optimistic point of view. And, you could be fishing on the premiere.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. You will be fishing on the premiere someday.
That's the mic drop right there.
Yeah, bang.
All right, thank you, Dan. We'll let you know when this airs, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, I appreciate you having me on, and I hope you guys have a great day, Doug and Addie.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to kick you out of here. We got some other work to do, but thank you very much.
All right, Doug.
That was awesome.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate
Nice
it.
to meet you.
You got it.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, Addie.
And say hi to Donna.
I will.
Okay.
Thanks
All right.
a bunch.
See you later.
You guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Each week on Walk and Roll Live, we share honest and open stories of people living with a disability.
I was excited to show my family just how much better of a skier I got to be. So we went up on December 30th. Then the next morning, I woke up 10 out of 10 pain. Chest, back, head. I slowly lost all feeling from my feet all the way up to my chest, that I was paralyzed, essentially. I didn't understand what was happening. All I knew is that something scary was going on. And
join us weekly for another powerful episode. Walk and Roll Live, wherever you get your podcasts. Life limitless. Subscribe now.
From the Ugyar Professional Training Studios, you're listening to Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories.
Welcome back to W&R, and looks like that stalking paid off, huh?
Dan's story is so awesome because of how his family has come together to love on him and help him continue to have a life. And it shows how community is so important to healing, to growing into this new thing that you are or will be. I feel like we say this every week, but I feel it's so true. And that's why you and I sit here and dedicate really our voluntary time, because this is all voluntary for you and me. But I mean, you spend even more time doing all the to the cleanup and the get ready to put this on the air. But this is why, because if somebody who's listening has felt so alone and they hear us today, even for 2 minutes, and go, oh my God, these are my people, or I'm seen as quote unquote normal in this space for this hour with a different story, then we've done our job, right?
Yeah. Well, when I go to these events and I get into these conversations, I say it there too. So, and I hear the stories of people that have found their community. And sometimes it's, fairly quickly. Sometimes it can be years and years. And they just had no idea that there was a community out here like this. And it has supported them and they've blossomed because they've been a part of the community. So I love to hear those stories. And that's why I keep saying it here and wherever I go. Yes, find your community. Yeah, absolutely. And Dan's story, I think I talked to him a little bit after the show too. And I didn't want to get into a whole thing, there on the show, but with him, but it's just, I run into those people all the time. And it's been really a phenomenon that I've noticed in the last, maybe getting close to 10 years now. These people that are on the freeway, I mean, the freeway goes along at a pretty good pace. Nobody's on the speed limit. They're going 70, sometimes 80 all together. We've decided somehow that's the speed right now we're going. Everybody's going 80. But then there's people that pass you like you're going, like you're standing still.
Like you're standing still? Yeah, I know.
And there's been times when I've checked my mirror and I go back to start moving over and zoom, it goes by. And if I had just done it a second, earlier or a split second earlier, I would have been in Dan's condition, And so stop it. Jesus.
Yeah, stop it now. Yeah. You don't know. I say that too. I mean, obviously, because for me, I can't drive, right? So whoever I get in the car with, I am at your mercy to keep me alive, especially sitting in the passenger seat. Not to say that you aren't in danger as a driver, right? But that can be a blind spot for a lot of people. And I'm always like, I just see lunatics. And I'm just like, okay, nothing is worth it. Like, we're all going to get there. Or like those people that do crazy shit because they need to get just a little ahead and then you see them at the next light.
Next light, yes. Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I think that I do not drive because I would have road rage because I'll have road rage anyways, but it's not road rage that like you cut me off. It's just like you're stupid because that was such a needle thread for no reason.
Yeah. And I guess it's delusional of me to think that, I'm asking somebody to care more about somebody else's life than they obviously do their own. So, it's probably a moot point, but, whatever. I'll try. Stop doing that. Okay.
Yeah. I'll die on that hill. Please, not by somebody's stupidity. I will die on the hill of, hey, please go slower. Hey, just think about it. If it's your child, if it's you should care about yourself enough not to want to die that day.
Exactly.
That way. So.
All righty. That's our 2 cents on that one.
We're done proselytizing.
Yes. So next week, we've got Dina Peterson. She's going to come on and tell her story and another, story full of twists and turns and you never know where you're going to be in life. So we will get all the details on that next week.
For sure. Well, be with us next week at this time. Even though you say we don't know where you're going to be with us so you can hear her story.
There you go. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Doug Vincent, with my good friend, Addie Rich from the Aguiar Professional Training Studio. This has been Walk and Roll Live, Disability Stories, Life Limitless.
Walk and Roll Live.